Welcome to the Strategy with Jason podcast. Tune in for everything you need to know to stay in the know regarding the automotive industry. Here's your host, Jason Harris.
Hey, what's going on, Podcast Nation? It is Jason Harris here, and thank you for joining me on another episode of Strategy with Jason. Today, I have a very special guest. I'm so excited to connect to this guest. This guest sent me a bucket of M&Ms recently, and my family had so much fun picking out all the orange ones. I don't know if, Terry, you even necessarily remember that, but we had a lot of fun doing that. I have the one, the only, the oh-so-famous Mr. Clubhouse celebrity himself, Terry Torline. Terry, what's up?
Thank you very much, Jason. I appreciate being here. It's a lot of fun. I don't even know if you remember why I sent that those M&Ms to you.
You know what? When I was saying it out loud, I was trying to remember. I'll be honest with you, I don't.
I came across you on a podcast. You were talking about a guy who paid like $100 for 5 minutes of your time, but you said, "Hey, a bag of M&Ms would have got a minute of my time." So I'm like, well, all right, I'll send him a whole 64 ounce or a gallon jug of M&Ms. I started to do this process. The problem is it cost me about $72 at the end of the day to ship from the United States into Canada to go through customs to get to you in order to send you those M&Ms. So those were the most expensive M&Ms that you
Those are the most expensive M&Ms. You can use Amazon next time, by the way, if you ever want to do that again.
Next time I'll know better.
But you know what, though? Actually, I think that's a perfect story because it kind of goes in line with the first subject that we wanted to start talking with today. But actually, I'm going to back up 1 second because before we get into this, see, I'm so excited to get into this subject that I'm actually skipping one I think the most important parts of our podcast, and that's the origin stories. For everyone out there that's watching and listening right now, Terry, and don't know your background, how you kind of got started in the industry, what is the story of how Terry got into this crazy little world we call the automotive industry?
So I was in subprime back in the 90s and started a subprime finance company back in the late 90s. Was successful. Then it got taken over. The line of credit got taken over by Ford. Ended up by selling out to Ford back in early 2000s. And Ford wanted me to marshal some cars through the auction. So I ended up at the auction in order to help them out on some cars. And that opportunity turned into, meeting car dealers and opened my eyes to the other side, if you will, of the car side. And I wanted to get into the retail side. Unfortunately, I got derailed and ended up in the detail side. So for 12 years, I owned a detail company and really loved that piece because I grew up on a farm back in the Midwest. Loved working with my hands, at the end of the day, the blue collar philosophy, loved working with my hands. I got involved in the chemicals from waxes and polishes and sealants and ceramics and those types of things, and was approached in about 2014 by a company that we were very successful in selling their product, asked me to come aboard and do training for them.
Nice.
So got into the sealant world that way, left there about a year ago, started EXOGloss with True Warranty, and have been just extremely happy ever since. It's been a great opportunity, but my basis or my root comes back from doing subprime loans and then working into the chemical side of the world.
You know what? I actually really love that kind of side of the business because I think there's so many things that a lot of people don't realize. Kind of the little nuances. And in fact, actually, we're going to have to save that because that's a whole nother podcast in itself. And I think you'd be a cool one to do that with. Before we started recording today, we were talking about a few different topics. And it's funny, we were talking about the M&M story before we got into your origin story, because I think this is perfect kind of segue into our first topic, was kind of like, how do we cut through that noise? It seems like during the last 12 months, everybody's become a content creator and everybody is focusing on building their personal and professional brand. So much so, it's like, how do you cut through that noise? And, Terry, when I think about it, I get LinkedIn DM all the time. Jason, I want to show you my product. I want 15 minutes of your time. It daily, I get that. But, the $72 worth of M&Ms, I still think it's hilarious. It costs that much to ship it. But
it was great.
But the funny thing is, I will never forget that. And it's not, look, the thing is, it's not the monetary amount, all right, that made the big difference. It's the fact that you listened and you took something that I had said in passing in one of my podcasts, and you took it, you owned it, and then you converted it into real action. And I think that's actually probably, one of many different ways that we can cut through the noise. I know you have a couple ideas as well as how we kind of cut through that noise. What are some of the methods that you have?
We are all guilty of that noise piece, and we're all guilty of that. Sending that DM that says, I'm going to double, whatever you're making right now, I'm going to double that. I'm going to double your penetration. I'm going to double your gross profit. Well, you don't even know what my gross profit is. You don't know what my penetration is. How are you going to double it without even knowing? It doesn't matter. We're going to double it. And there's a lot of people that are guilty of that. And so the DMs that you're talking about is of that. It's a challenge. So my method is to do that needs assessment. It's not different from selling the car. If you go in and try and sell a person a electric vehicle and they're in the construction business, well, clearly you've got them on the wrong vehicle. You need to do a needs assessment. How do you plan on driving this car? What is it that you do? And do the needs assessment with the customers or with the dealer, with the dealer principal. What are your needs? What are your pain points? What are the problems that you're having with your current product? If you're not having problems, what can we do from a product, process, or people standpoint in order to help you out? If you do that needs assessment, and at the end of it, sometimes, and it's come across on a few occasions, where you go, hey, I think you're doing pretty good right now. I don't see really any benefit that I can bring to you today, but do you mind if we keep in touch? And over time, maybe there's going to be an opportunity for us to do business. But if you don't do that needs assessment up front, you're probably going to turn your audience off real quick. So,
well, you know what, though? I think the art of a need assessment has kind of gone away, though. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, look, it was a very big part, I feel, of my success early on in selling vehicles was that need assessment. I feel like now we've kind of gotten to the point now where a need assessment is more like a proverbial box that we just have to check off. Like, okay, right. I did it, so I can move on to the next step, right? But what it really, really means to have that need assessment is actually connect. That's the whole point. The whole point behind it is that we wanted to connect with that person at a human to human level. And I hate to say it, this is true both in the dealer world and in the vendor world. A lot of that's gone. I mean, it seems like people want to create content, create brands, not with the intent to connect, but with the intent to sell. Do you see the same thing?
I do. And my strength in sales and marketing, I believe, are two different things, completely
100%.
separate. Sales is one thing, marketing is another. My strength is in the marketing, the ability to market myself, market my product, market whatever it is. Selling is an act of finding the value, and as long as the price doesn't, or value exceeds the price, people are going to buy. But I think that piece of it has gone away. That, yeah, let's check the box. I did the needs assessment, boss, and and we move on. So, yeah, I think that piece has gone away. Well, and there's a lot of other pieces in this pie that have gone away. Customer service, customer experience, and I will get to those later. But there's so much of the basics that we've tended to get away from that I think that we need to get back to that. Build the relationship with your vendor partner, build that relationship, and then move forward from there.
And honestly, I mean, that's how we kind of cut through the noise. I mean, I think, we may have said it in a clubhouse, or somebody said it in a clubhouse, I think earlier this morning, people want to know how much you care before they're willing to learn about what you know or what you do, right? And I just feel like that need assessment, that's what gives you that opportunity. So we really want to cut through the noise. It's like, be intentional with wanting to connect with people. And, but you have to do that consistently, which goes into kind of our next conversation here. It's like, you can't just crush a need assessment one time and then like, woohoo, this was great. It's like, no, it's all about consistent process. And this goes both for vendors and dealers, and we can take it whatever direction you want here. But I feel like over the next 12 months, I don't care if you're a dealer or a vendor, you're going to have to process your way to profitability. And that all comes from consistency. So when I say, I'm just curious when you hear the words like consistent process, all right, what's the first thing that comes to mind for you?
McDonald's. McDonald's has what, 14 billion restaurants throughout the world, or whatever the number is. But they have a consistent method. And we've talked about this in the past, that if I go to Chicago, Detroit, Dallas, wherever I go, that Big Mac it tastes exactly the same.
Oh, yeah.
And they are able to they've developed the process. And the first thing they did was write it down. Because if you don't write it down, then how can anybody follow it? But
Exactly.
that I think is the biggest piece, is that nobody really sits down and says, yeah, we have a process. Sure. Can you show me that process? Is it in writing? That's the first piece. When I was in the banking world prior to the subprime world, and I remember one of my biggest mentors, and I'm not sure where she's at today. Her name is Nan Tracy. But I asked her a question. I went through operations. I was going through all the chairs. I went through operations. I said, how do I do this? And she goes, there's 27 operation manuals along that wall over there. Go pick one out, read it, and figure out how to do it. She could have told me the answer in 5 seconds, but she made me go through the operations manual and figure out how to process whatever it was. I'm not even sure what the question was, but made me read the operations manual, and they had a process. And you have that defined, and you have it written down, and you have to go look it up yourself, because having someone tell you the process, you're not going to learn the process.
No, and you know what? I still find, like, especially we're talking about management, I feel bad for a lot of managers out there, because, a lot of the times the path to becoming a manager is just start off as a salesperson. And then once you get to the point where you're really good at it, then we try to convert you into management. And we give you little to no training as far as what it actually means to manage it. And managing a process is key. I find too many managers get into it and they think they have to manage the people. No. The most successful dealerships, and I'm sure you've engaged with them as well, is you don't manage the people, you manage the process. I mean, very similar to the product that you guys sell, right? I've had similar products that you guys sell installed on my vehicle, and it's all process. If they didn't follow the process, it wouldn't work. Straight that simple. And I find that that's where a big disconnect is right now in kind of our efforts is that our management team just doesn't necessarily know how to carve it out. And you nailed it right on the head. It's like, it's got to be written down first.
Got it written down.
That is, I can't tell you how many times I walk into a delership and I ask them what their process is, and it's like, it's right here, Jason, right in my head. And I'm like,
is it a secret?
Is it a secret? Because 15 other people are executing that process entirely different than what you think it is, right? I'm always wondering about that. Why do you think I always find that there's a level of fear about actually documenting a process. Why do you think we're afraid of getting to the point to document our process?
I don't want to say it's laziness, but I think it's to some degree. I think there's laziness in.
Do you think it's accountability? There you go.
What's that?
Do you think it's accountability? Do you think it's accountability?
I would have to agree that it's accountability. I would agree that accountability is in that process, is a part of that, because I think that really just kind of nails it right there. It's the accountability side. But on the other side, if it's not written down, people can't follow it. But I remember, and I kind of hasten back to the days of detail, is that one of the worst things that I did was train the detailers on how to do certain things, window tinting, ceramic, because as soon as I got them trained well enough, they went off and started their own company. The worst thing that I could do is not train that guy, because if I didn't train him, then he would screw up the car. So You have to do the training. You have to have the process and show them how to do it, because if you don't, the downside is way worse than the upside.
Well, and then once we have it documented and we're executing, we have to have a way to actually measure the effectiveness of the process. That's where I actually see that at that point. That's the point where I see the best of the best start to separate from the pack. Is not only that they documented the process, not only that they're executing the process, but they're actually measuring the effectiveness of that process, and then using that data to continue to evolve, right? And we were talking a little bit about evolving and changing. And look, we've been in the industry for a while. In the last 12 months, as an industry, we've changed more in the last 12 months than we probably have in the last 40 years combined.
Have we? Have we though?
Well, all right. I think we started to. We stared to, right?
We did. We started to. And I love the evolution of the industry, and I love what I'm hearing in the car business of people changing, going to the digital retailing. It's the two words haven't been around or together. The president of NADA was listening to him last week that the customer wants three things. He wants speed, transparency, and control of the process. But in 1980, those three things were the same things I think that the customer wanted, was speed, transparency, and control in the process. We still, as an industry, are challenged by delivering that message. I think that change is coming, that evolution is coming. And I think there is going to be a chasm at some point of those that have accomplished it and those that haven't. And And that there is going to be a greater divide as we move forward.
And I agree. And I feel like we're beginning to see this. We're seeing the cream rise to the top. Is that, there are some people that embraced the necessary changes because of the pandemic and the closures, and we were forced to communicate with our clients differently. We were forced to actually focus on our online or our digital dealerships, versus our physical
Right.
dealerships. But now I'm seeing now, since we're 12 months or over a year into this now, is you're starting to see people start to separate from the pack. And you see some people, at least I have, I'm curious if you've seen the same, some people starting to wait to kind of go back to the way business has always been kind of done. And then I've seen some that almost kind of somehow fire was lit under their ass and they're just not ready to go back. They are just continuing to propel themselves forward. Are you seeing the same? And what does that look like to you, the difference there?
I am, and the Brian Benstocks of the world have done a remarkable job, and he's a tremendous subject matter expert and in this field, well respected, well looked up to, and is a leader. And I think that people are starting have gravitated and are following in his footsteps in his path. Unfortunately, I've been out on the road over the past couple of weeks. I was in about 46 different dealerships over the past 3 weeks. And what I'm hearing, what I'm seeing, and what I'm feeling when I walk into the showrooms and the lots is, gosh, I can't wait until this tier goes down and we can get back to doing things the way that we used to. So I see that resistance to change quite a bit, but I am seeing that glimmer of come on, guys, come on. There is a different way. There's a better way. The tools are there.
Oh, 100% they are.
The menu systems have done a great job on developing those tools for us.
Actually, the OEMs are actually doing a better job of this than the general dealer body is. I mean, the amount of changes and that snowball of change since the beginning of last year, I find in OEMs, I was having a conversation with the CEO of Ford Canada this morning, and I was just amazed and impressed by how much they've just embraced technology. They're embracing new formats, new ways to own vehicles, new ways to drive vehicles. And it's just like, I hear more future talk coming from OEMs than I hear future talk coming from the dealerships. And, that worries me a little bit. And I'm trying to think, if for dealers out there watching and listening to this right now, and that are not having these future conversations, what would you say to them? What would be the first 2 or 3 conversations that you think a dealership needs to have right now to future-proof their business?
I think they need to reevaluate their current process in respects, streamline the process. If it's not digital, I remember one of the things that I started, and this was back in the late 90s, of I wanted to go with a completely paperless office that faxes, in the days of faxes, faxed in, and you didn't have you could go directly into your system and you could automate everything. And we were going to go completely paperless in our office. The technology was there 20 something years ago in order to do that, but the auto industry just wanted to, generate reams of paper in order to send to you. So we've had that ability for years. I just see that the first thing we need to do is to embrace the technology that's out there. And utilize those pieces in order to affect that delivery. The model's out there.
Mhm,
Amazon has it.
exactly.
Tesla has it.
Yep.
It's not a matter of we have to really reinvent the wheel, but we just have to embrace it. And we're always going to have that guy or gal in the dealership that's been there for 30 years and says, I just don't want to change. And I think that we're seeing a different type of salesperson or coming from a different walk of life and a different background come into the store. That's coming from a different retail background, maybe from the phone industry or those types of industries, that is having a different change. People are selling cars at clips that I've never heard of before, 30, 40, 50, alley read at 200. That wasn't heard of before. And that's the leadership we need to follow.
I think when I think about it, we're on that snowball. I think we're heading that direction, and we just got to keep that going. And, it's funny though, because I did see this happen once back in 2008 during the recession as well. It's, and then it slowly faded away. And I just hope this time it doesn't fade away. And, that there is enough disruption within the industry, within our process, within our operations, within our marketing, our branding efforts and so on, that we stay in that direction. And I mean, one of the other topics that we kind of discussed a little bit before we were recording today, kind of segues into this too, is that, not only a process has changed, but the way that we look and approach websites have also changed, right? It's like, how do we approach the audience has changed. Just because they're not coming into the dealership and the showroom traffic is down doesn't necessarily mean that actual traffic is down. And that kind of comes into like, how do we start converting these newfound eyeballs? So I'd like to kind of get your thoughts on that, because I think that's a great segue. Is like, there's lots of website traffic. There's lots of new opportunities there. You're finding on social media. There's conversations. I mean, there's conversations happening everywhere right now, including Clubhouse. Club and Class. How do you think we convert these opportunities into actual conversations or relationships?
That is a $64,000 question.
No kidding, right?
And I think that in two things, we struggle with that. I look at the reports that we get from our webmaster on a monthly basis, and we get 64,000 page views, and we get this, and the numbers are incredible. And you're like, well, geez, we must be doing extremely well. I mean, we are doing well, don't get me wrong, but I just see the amount of traffic, and then how do we convert that traffic? And I think if you provide the content that we're looking for, it used to be, let's just put up a website so that we can have a web presence. But
Exactly.
now that website needs to be your sales tool. People have, the car buying public spends 17 hours on the web prior to setting foot into your dealership. You can provide them with so much content, so much information through your website, not only about the cars, because it's not only about that. Variable ops has really shifted in the past 20 years. I don't think that the amount of money made on a variable ops sale has really changed, but certainly what has shifted is the money. What used to be 70% on the front and 30% kind of in the back is now shifting towards the other way around, 30% on the front, 70% on the back. The focus on the aftermarket products, so the products that customers need, that provide value to the customer, like our product, I get that, self-serving, but those products need to be talked about. We've built our website as a consumer-facing, or a portion of our website to be consumer-facing, so that we can address the customer, explain to them what our program process and what our product does, and how it's going to bring value and benefit to them. And the pricing is going to be left up to the dealer in order to negotiate from there.
Well, you're telling the story, and you know what? And I think that's how we do it. That's how we convert. I think to your point, for a lot of people when they started their website solution, it was just a glorified brochure of their business, and that was it. It housed a phone number and an address and how to call us and how to find us, right? And then there was a little bit of shopping because we'll throw in some inventory in there as well, But again, at the end of the day, the story behind why someone connects with you is not your product or the services that you provide, but it's the actual people behind it. And I just feel like if we want to convert more traffic, we have to do a better job at telling the story of what really makes us unique. And I know that you've had some great examples of this. So that's going to become my question. Have you seen some great examples of people really being story first, product second?
I remember when I built my first website, it was the website, the web developer webmaster was saying, we need to put games on there or weather or something so that they have a reason to come to your website. And I always thought, why am I promoting something else? So why did they come here to play games and then happen to view my website? I always thought that was kind of a strange mix. And for those that are, longtime veterans of websites, you'll know what I'm talking about. But today, what it has to be is we've built our website to be a blog site. If you want information about our product, if you want information about chemicals and how they're going to relate to the application on your product, particularly in the paint sealants and waxes, the difference between ceramic, the difference between graphene, the difference between a polymer sealant, all that information is on our website. There's a Q&A session or a section. There's a blog section on there where we talk about these things. So we want the consumers to come there and be educated and use it as a resource tool and not as a information tool of here's our phone number, here's our address.
I've been on your website though, and what I have to say is that you guys have done a good job of not because I feel like when people hear the word blogs and people hear the word, like we're talking about the product, look, you don't go into And in some cases you do, but you go farther than telling just about the feature and benefits of the product, right? You tell the story behind the product, and I just feel like as an industry, we've kind of lost that. We've lost that art of telling that story. And I think what you guys do, there's some amazing stories there. I the reason I got my vehicles sealed, I did the whole was is graphite. Is that what it's called?
Graphene.
Graphene,
Graphene.
sorry, graphene. The reason I got mine done was because I was told a story. Dude, I don't understand the chemical compounds of what the hell you guys actually use. Like, I would never buy into that, right? I'm like, whatever, right? But there was an individual in my area that was doing a great job socially online of telling the story and the benefits behind the product and how I'm going to hold on to my resale value. How I hate scratches. I always buy dark colored cars, and it's like it drives me nuts, right? So, but I was able to connect through that story, and I just feel like we need to do a better job at that for any dealerships out there that are watching, listening right now, and maybe struggle with that with their team. What advice would you give them on how they can kind of get back to the art of telling stories?
Make it relatable. I can give you the brochure, and I can give you our website. I can give you everything, but the most successful members or the most successful people with our product are those that have the product on their car themselves and can relate a story of. One of my favorite stories was Aunt Martha's cherry pie, where it was on the seat, spilled onto the floor, and because it was protected, it didn't leave the cherry stains on it. There's a guy that I know in Chicago that tells a story about a bottle of wine, what he was doing driving around with a bottle of wine in his car. That's a whole different story. But those that are relatable to, yeah, I know that's happened to me. And it's not if, the tagline that I really have developed over the years, it's not if, but when. It's not if you're going to spill. It's not if you're going to have this situation. It's when. Love VSCs, love service contracts gap. Hopefully you never have that issue where you have to use that particular policy. But with our product, certainly you're going to have to use the customers. It's going to provide a value or benefit to the customer, whether it be a dent, a windshield, or cosmetic wheel, whether it be a stain inside or outside.
For sure.
The relatability to our product is high. I get that it's not the most sexy product in your product line, but it is a true value product and provides a great value proposition for your customer. And those that are thinking of the customer experience first and not thinking, and not just saying, hey, it's all about the profit or the bottom line. There is profit that can be had with this product. But if you're talking about a product that is truly going to be a customer-centric product, that's the way that we built it. We built it with what happens most: dents, wheels, stains. Those are the things that we want the customer to be protected from, and they're not currently protected by the OEM. So this gives them an opportunity and a path in order to help out the consumer.
I love the fact that you use the word customer experience because, I find too often right now that the processes that dealerships buy into and execute and the products that they buy into and execute aren't necessarily customer centric as much as they're there for themselves because it was the most profitable product. But I've seen the most successful dealerships out there, all right, build process around customers and only buy into products that are customer centric, not because they were going to make an extra 15 points on the back end for it, right? So it's like, but I feel like that's a mindset. It's a mindset to stay in that because it's very easy to sway away from it. How do you stay in that mindset, Terry?
Our pricing and the way that we have approached this, and we were able to build this in a post-COVID society, that what we wanted to do was to bundle these products and create a price point that is low enough for the dealer that he can preload this. Let's take 6 or 7 ancillary products, bundle them into one package, and take that off of the F&I guy's desk or F&I manager's desk and say, you don't have to worry about selling these 7 products. I want you to focus on these 3 products, Gap, Tire, whatever your products are that you want to focus on. Particularly, it's going to be VSC. But let's take those out of the way because we know the customer is going to benefit. But what we tend to do is go in and sell the high ticket items and then go, well, I've got some leftover products here. Maybe you want to buy one of these as well. But if you include a bundle package priced properly, here's a simple math problem that I love doing. If you took a product and made 20% penetration, that's pretty good, and made $800 profit.
Mhm.
You're going to make the same amount if you have 80% penetration on $200 profit. What I'm saying is that you can lower that and put that at a price point that is consumer friendly, high customer value, and then still have plenty of room left over for the profit side of it, but also focus on the other products that you want to sell in your department.
And you know what? I think we always win. I mean, I think of every single dealership that I've ever been into that's been incredibly successful, both from the back end and the front end of the dealership. All right, in their processes and in their products, it's it's the customer first, right, and then profitability second. And I know that sounds really tacky, but it's true. If you sit down and talk to some of those successful dealerships and successful businesses out there, that is their model.
I agree, Jason.
Hey, I know it's getting towards the tail end of our time today, and this has been an amazing conversation. I'm sure a bunch of these topics we probably just extend out a whole nother hour if we had the time.
We do another hour. Let's go.
I know, right? But before I let you go, though, for everyone out there that's watching and listening right now and is really enjoying this conversation and would love to kind of extend this conversation with you, what is the best way to kind of connect with you?
LinkedIn is the best way. I am LinkedIn. I use that as my primary social platform. So please connect with me on LinkedIn. DM me on LinkedIn. I'm more than happy to respond. If you want to sell me Bitcoin, it's probably better if you don't hit me up on LinkedIn. But that's okay. I got plenty of Bitcoin opportunities in there. But also go to our website and there's hit my calendar, and you can always reserve some time. That's real easy, very accessible. In order to always enjoy, sit down and have a conversation. One of the things that we've done is consistency and hit that consistent message. We talked about it earlier from a McDonald's standpoint. We, from EXOGloss standpoint, also want to develop that consistency, that the experience that you get today is going to be the same experience that you're going to get tomorrow, that we want to deliver the customer service, that we want to be your partner. We don't want to be a vendor. We want to be your partner. And we want to make sure that you have a positive experience. And it's not always about the customer. The customer in many cases can be the dealer. So hit me up on LinkedIn, go to our website, exogloss.com, and we are part of True Warranty. Garen McMillian runs the other side, which handles service contracts, GAP, all of the other F&I products. We're a TPA from that standpoint. So whatever product point that you want to put together, bundle it with our appearance protection, you're able to go to that website and put a program together. I'd love to have further the conversation. Hopefully this is just a start of a conversation. Love to further that.
Hey, Terry, thank you so much for taking the time to jam with me today. This has been a lot of fun. You have yourself an amazing day.
Enjoy your M&Ms, man.
Thanks.
Thanks for tuning in to the Strategy with Jason podcast with your host, Jason Harris. Don't want to miss new content? Be sure to check out the full podcast library at strategywithjason.com to stay in the know. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Happy podcasting.